You are all terrible YouTubers. All kidding aside. Bum, 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 ba-da-dum. Time for Orville Season 3 reviews. Welcome back one more time this season. We're talking the Orville New Horizons, aka Season 3, Episode 10, the finale of the season. Making that clear right now, of the season is all the confirmation we have right now. Future unknown. Very, very apt title because we don't know what's going on with the future of this show. It's been a hell of a ride. I'm not going to go ahead and assume this is the end because I could see, even if it's not renewed for another season, Seth will bring it back in some way, possibly a movie, a miniseries, some form or another. There will be a future for the Orville, even if we don't get that renewal notice sometime soon. But hashtag renew the Orville. Anywho, you're new here. There will be spoilers. Bow out now. Don't know why you're watching a season 3 finale video. If you haven't watched it, here we go. Kicking things off, going to show the beauty shot of the Orville as it is right here, because this may be the last time we see some of these beautiful effects for a while. And I just want to pay tribute to this. I do really, really enjoy the streaking star effect, because that's something that Star Trek seems to have bowed out of to do a more hyperspace type of feel. It's really nice to see when they have those streaking stars instead of these, weird light speed tunnels or whatever we have that they're showing off in some modern sci-fi. We start off with Isaac walking through the halls of the ship. It kind of harkens back to TNG's day-to-day. We're seeing his morning routine, I guess you could call it. He's walking through the halls. He goes to the food synthesizer, the replicator, whatever they call it in this show, and gets a banana. And he decides to take that to Claire, passes it off to her. We see this whole kind of, thing built up of how long it takes Isaac to do this small task for Claire, because she mentioned she liked a banana in an earlier episode. So it's kind of showing that Isaac, even though he is emotionless, has this real deep connection with Claire that goes beyond, what you might think of a cold-hearted mechanical being. There's definitely something going on there more than meets the eye. Then we have what's going to turn out to be a Mocklin reunion ceremony, something along those lines, because Clyden and Bortus had broken up officially, but now they've come back together. So we're going down to a planet to have them do their renewal ceremony. And the way the Mocklins do this basically is, well, they disrobe. One of them, I'm not sure how they determine who is who, but one of them has to chase the other one. And in order for the renewal ceremony to be correct and to reestablish their mating, whatever you call it, the one chasing the other one needs to effectively capture him, hunt him down and capture him. Now, this cannot be done in error. So, you can't let the other person win. That's seen as fake. That's seen as weakness. You have to actively be trying to escape while the other one actively tries to catch you. It's the only way that this mating ritual is going to work. So we see this wonderful scene of Clyden and Bortus chasing each other down. Well, Bortus is chasing Clyden. So we see Clyden run away, run away, run away. He's trying to hide. He's trying to escape. There's a couple of scenes where they're, throwing rocks to try to escape, hiding behind trees. It's a very, very fun scene that just shows us the differences in the cultures. It's wonderful. There's a lot of fun stuff. Of course, Bortus is able to eventually track down and capture Clyden, and they are now officially back together. They decide to initiate the sexual event, and we get to see this. This is actually a very fun scene here where they just basically they hold heads against each other with their eyes closed for a very, very long time, and the rest of the crew is basically unsure what to do, so Gordon decides to start a slow clap. And this is probably for the first time this episode where we start seeing some of that old style, that Orville humor that people say has been missing, creep its way back in. And we'll see a lot of that throughout this episode where they start throwing some of that stuff back in. The rest of the crew also laughs along, claps along, and Isaac seems to be receiving an idea from this. That's the feeling we're given from this scene, is Isaac has come to a realization. So we go back after the intro sequence and find out Isaac has now decided to propose to Claire. That's right. He wants to marry her. she is shocked. She is very shocked. She doesn't know what to do. This is this is news to her, I guess. She wasn't expecting this, and she's going to need to think on it. She does not give him a decision right away. That's going to come later. She goes to have her little girls club with I almost said Claire. She goes to have her girls club with Tala and Kelly. I would have liked to mention maybe of Charlie missing from this. I don't actually believe, now that I think back, that Charlie was even mentioned in this episode, which it's not really a ding to the episode as a whole, but I do miss Charlie. It's weird. She's only been in this season and she was a hateable character as far as a lot of people were concerned, but I do miss her presence. There is a bit of a void from her lack of presence in this episode, but not too bad. It's noticeable, but it doesn't take away from anything, if that makes sense. So they're drinking, they're discussing her future with Isaac, what she should say. When Ed comes in, not realizing they're drunk, he's like, "Well, I'm gonna get out of here. Let me get out of your hair." And they're like, "No. We need the opinion of somebody sober and a man. Let's see what you have to say." They ask his advice. They're actually a bit surprised that his advice is as good as it is, and they, again, bring back the bit of the old humor here with, "Thank you, sober man. You've been helpful." And he's whoop, whoop, salutes, gets out of there. Now we find the crux of their mission here, which is a part that doesn't quite make sense to me. So apparently they have been set to check in on that planet that they ran into back in season 1, the up and down vote planet where everyone was basically, social currency was based on likes and dislikes. So they're going to check on that planet when suddenly they receive a distress call or some sort of subspace SOS from somebody that they met on that planet. The main female, the main girl from that planet, Listella, she sends them a message and they're like, "What the? That doesn't make sense. What's going on?" Turns out she was able to reconfigure one of their subspace scanners, one of their little tricorder equivalents, and send them a message. She's basically saying, "My planet sucks. Can you please come rescue me? I know you guys exist. I need help. Please come take me off this hellhole." And they do it. They go and say, "Well, she's got our technology. She knows about us. Let's go find out what she wants." They bring her up to the ship and she wants sanctuary. Yeah, she is requesting some sort of asylum, some sort of sanctuary in the Union to get off her planet. She wants to escape because it isn't going well for her. And we cut down to engineering, and we've got some lovely voice work by Norm Macdonald here as Yaphet. So it's great to hear him here. And we've got this whole engineering crew having a nice conversation. We've got John here, we've got Turco, we've got the Bloopy alien, who I still haven't figured out his name. I should probably do that at some point. No Dan. I really do miss Dan. And they're having a conversation basically about what should happen with this whole situation, what's going on. It's interesting that John and Turco here are on different sides of the situation, considering they had some sort of relationship in the past that we never saw revealed as far as what happened there. So it is possible that something bad happened, and that's why they're both taking the stance they are. And then we've got Claire deciding to talk to her children about what should happen. She's being very gentle about it. She's dancing around the subject. And they're like, "We know Isaac asked you to marry him. We're fine with it, actually. We really like that." So she's like, "What, you knew?" They're like, yeah, we're not dumb. This is a small ship." So they have given her their blessing to allow Isaac to join their family as, I guess, some sort of surrogate father, because they already kind of feel like that's what's happened. So she decides to tell Isaac, "You know what? Yes, I'm going to say yes. Let's do this thing. Let's do it." And then we have this wonderful sort of ongoing through line of Kelly talking to Lysella. When I say wonderful, I don't necessarily mean the storyline is brilliant. It's that original. It's amazing. What's great about it is Kelly spends a lot of time telling her how things in the Union function, how Earth has kind of evolved from where we are currently in the 21st century to where the Union is now, how some of their technology works a little bit, how some of their social structure works. A lot of much needed backstory to show how the universe works. And that is something that I think is wonderful, because we're getting more of that stuff that allows us to fill in other episodes. If you know this sort of backstory, you can help fill other storylines in without necessarily having to sit down and be taught this stuff each and every time. Similar to, we've got so much backstory in Star Trek that when they tell an episode, we're coming into it with all sorts of, and I say baggage in a good way, of prior issues, prior things that we've learned that help fill in those gaps, so they don't necessarily have to sit there and spend 40 minutes explaining their society, because we have this information built from prior episodes. So that's much needed information that I've wanted for a long time in this show, and they deliver it here by using Lysella as an audience surrogate, sort of, to explain the differences, because she's in essence coming from a culture very much like our current level of technology, our current level of social development. So she is basically us being explained the differences between our current world and the world of the Orville. So that is great. And then we've got some fantastic acting from Claire here. I do want to go on record. I think she has done the best acting in this series, maybe aside from Mark Jackson, because by God, it's got to be pretty interesting to act as an emotionless android. I think putting them together has been fantastic because they're both probably the best two actors on the show. No shade at anyone else. And then we have her basically really peeved at John Lamar because of the advice he gave to Isaac earlier, which was, you can't marry the first person you've been in. You've got to go sample the pool there and see what else is out there. And she is not happy about this. She has learned that he gave this terrible advice. He's actually given terrible advice before. He has not done the best as far as the Isaac and Claire relationship. He's given a lot of bad advice, in her opinion, to Isaac, and she's done with it. Basically, she's like, if you ever give him any advice for anything at all, even if it's the simple minor thing that has absolutely nothing to do with me, you're dead. You stay away. You keep your stupid brain out of this situation because you are a moron, and I don't like any of the stuff that you are saying to Isaac. He's gullible. He doesn't understand social cues, so he's going to take your advice to heart as real, concrete advice, and I don't like that, so stay away from it. That was a good scene. Her acting was great. It was fun to see her come in and just start yelling at him from across engineering in front of his subordinates. Then we've got this great environmental simulator where Kelly is showing Lysella this self-contained environment within some sort of asteroid or comet. It turns out that these little glowing blue squid-like angel alien things, they're a sentient race that belongs to a sentient species that belongs to the Union. She's showing that by coming together, these two very disparate beings are actually beneficial to help out the whole of the Union, and that's kind of what we've built our society on over the last couple hundred years, is to work together to become greater than the sum of our parts. So that's kind of what she's showing her here, and also that there's such different landscapes and different alien vistas out there that it's just unbelievable. So Isaac comes up to the bridge, he asks Lieutenant Malloy, will you be my best man? And Bortus kind of butts in like, no, I would actually like to be your best man instead. And Gordon's like, what the hell? Why are you just stealing it from me? So, and this is something that I hadn't really thought of before that we learned in this episode. So a lot of the times we've seen Bortus say, oh, I'm good at jokes. Oh, I'm good at singing. Oh, I'm good at this and that. He's just kind of been jealous of other people on the ship, especially Gordon here, who is good at singing and is good at the humor. So that's something I never really thought of when Bortus said, I am a wonderful singer on Mockless. I am a wonderful comedian on Mockless. I think he was just feeling inadequate and claiming things, even though he necessarily wasn't the best at that thing. Or perhaps on Mockless, he is considered the best, but whatever. It was a nice dynamic between them. So it turns out that Isaac's like, okay, Bortus, you can be my best man. And Gordon's like, what the hell, man? So he gets really fed up. He goes down, he's ranting about it to Ed and John Lamar, and suddenly, the sandwich reappears. It was not a huge plot point. It appeared in a great scene. It kind of stopped the conversation. It was not as some people are speculating, they're in the middle of a heated Kalon battle and the sandwich appears and changes the tide of the war or something. It was fun. It was good to see it return. It wasn't pivotal to the overall storyline, and I think had it been, that may have been a bit over the top, although I would have loved to see a sandwich just appear and destroy a Kalon freighter or whatever because it jammed up their works or something. Kind of similar to the first pilot episode where the redwood tree destroyed the krill. Whatever. It was great to see it back. Gordon's like, hey, that's my sandwich. Sean has a great quip here about like, man, I work on some weird ass ship. It's fun. It's a fun scene, and I like how it was played. It wasn't too over the top, but it was a definitive callback to something that the fan base was really, really requesting. So I guess now we just need to mail our egg salad sandwiches to the Hulu offices so they renew the Orville. They brought that on themselves. Had it been a prior season, we would have sent jars of pickles. However, now probably egg salad sandwiches is the way to go. That's not going to smell good. So we've got a couple differing parties going on here. We've got the men's bachelor party for Isaac, and alternatively, we also have the women's bachelorette party going on in the other environmental simulator. So the men's party, being run by Bortus, is a bore fest. Nobody's having a good time except for Clyden and Bortus, probably, and they're just bored out of their skulls. Bortus decides to take that upon himself to become the entertainment. He comes out as Elvis and decides to sing some Elvis songs in his monotone Mocklin voice. So it is basically, I think it puts most of them to sleep except for Clyden, who's just hooray, super excited, very, very over the top. A lot of fun. The other side, the women, are experiencing a holographic stripper version of Isaac. So he's got the leather, he's, doing some sweet dance moves, and he's got a nipples that produce their own tassels. So that's got to be a design perk if you're going to marry a K-line. I'm wondering if Isaac actually has those. If not, Claire could always request that John install them. We'll probably see no more of that in season 4, but if we do, the show is probably not going to be on Disney Plus anymore. So we cut here to Lysella, who is now deciding that she is feeling abandonment issues for her society. She's like, why can I have this wonderful life and escape my society when everyone back home is still suffering? How can I put this together with my desire to help? How can I survive and live a good life when everyone back home is struggling? So she decides to leave. Lo and behold, as she's leaving, it turns out she's stolen a bunch of technology from the Orville. She has taken a comm scanner with a bunch of scans on some sort of improvements, society, some technology. She did not, however, download any weapon systems, so 1 point of kudos for her. However, they decide she can't leave now because she's proven she's untrustworthy. We'll see where that goes. So Kelly takes her back to the environmental simulator to show her this other planet that the Union helped when they were in their infancy. And because they provided this technology to a planet that was not ready, not very long after they did so, a wonderful, thriving planet fell into nuclear war and basically annihilated themselves. That is why the Union has these stringent protocols in place so that similar situations don't happen and they can allow less advanced civilizations to develop and grow to the level they need to be in order to understand and utilize the technology they've been given. Because if you give somebody technology that they're not socially ready for, problems are probably going to ensue because they're not going to use it in the correct manner. This is a very, very poignant scene, I guess, for Lysella, who realizes the error of her ways, and she's definitely seems to at least come around on her willingness to steal technology and head back home to give it to her people. She now understands that's probably not the best course of action. Then we cut to the real meat of the episode, the wedding of Claire and Isaac. This is a wonderful affair. Isaac, having a complete misunderstanding as per usual, has invited, for his side of the wedding, every single Kalon that exists. That's right, he has invited the entire Kalon race, if you can call an artificial people a race, and they have all come, barring a few that were left on Kalon Prime to defend the planet just in case. They've all arrived. There is this great shot of, hundreds and thousands of Kalon ships dropping out of Quantum around the Orville, and it's like, what? Then they're like, well, you know what? You all won't fit on the ship, so we'll broadcast it to the entire fleet and just send a few representatives over to the wedding. So that was funny. It was great. It's a nice sci-fi trope. Hello, Yaphet. He's having a good time. Yaphet's enjoying the wedding. And now, step out if you don't want a final character spoiler. Thank goodness they had the wherewithal to not spoil this in the opening credits with the guest stars. Like, they put Victor Garber's name in there. They put some other guest stars. They did not put this guest star name in the opening credits. Thank goodness for that. About to be revealed. Obviously, I could tell right away from the back who it was. You probably can too. We've got Alara back. That is correct. Obviously, she has been off the show officially as a main cast member since the beginning of season 2. She did appear in the end of season 2 for that alternate universe party. Wasn't really a party, was it? There were Twinkies, but it wasn't really a party. Anyway, she did return once for that cameo. It is great to see her here. This is the first time we've seen her interact with the actual prime timeline version of her crew since she left the ship. And I believe this is the first time we've actually seen her interact with Tala at all. And that was a great scene to see them together. And now they're at the wedding reception, and Bortus decides he needs to give his speech. And boy, his speech is one for the ages here. Basically, he was told that by Gordon that the way to give a speech is to start with a joke and then say something serious. Well, Bortus took that to heart and starts going along like, well, the Kalon attempted to destroy the Union fleet, and everybody hates you, you're a terrible person. All kidding aside. Have a good wedding. So he was not understanding it. He's saying very, very harsh, realistic things, followed by a genuine comment of, have a good marriage or something. So it was great. It was a fun moment. Bortus and Gordon have pretty much been the main points of humor going forward in this season, and it's great to see that ramped up here even more. Not everyone's having it. People are not enjoying it. Isaac actually seems to realize that and say, you know what, Gordon? You become the best man now. I'd like to hear your speech instead. Obviously, Gordon does a much better job. The only one who isn't as impressed is Clyden, but, Clyden is to be expected. I love this shot here. I haven't mentioned it. The dress uniforms are amazing. I really like them. Just saying. I'm showing these shots here because they're showing basically everyone. You've got the shot of most of the crew minus Gordon because he's giving the speech. You've got the kids table over here with some Kalons. You've got peppered throughout some cast members or some special guest stars we've had on the ship throughout the season, the series. You've got, I think they had somebody who looked like Dan. I'm not entirely sure if it is Dan because Mike Henry did not provide any sort of voice this episode. So whether or not it actually was supposed to be Dan, I'm going to go ahead and say it was because it would be sad not to have Dan in the season finale. We've got this wonderful shot here of everyone standing together. You've got John and Tala there. They do kind of give each other a little look, so maybe there's hope for a furthering budding relationship between them, even though you've got those problems. We've got Alara here. We do know Alara and John had a relationship in the alternate timeline, so he's just, a Zalayan sandwich, so kudos for him. We've got Lysella here wearing some swanky dress. That leads me to something I think possibly going forward with the series, if it does continue, I think they're setting her up to become a recurring or main cast member, being the audience surrogate. It would be great to see this woman out of time kind of learning and getting her grips on this new future. It would be a great entry point, a launching pad, so to say. So if that is the case, I would love to see her as a main crew member. Obviously, Charlie's going to be missed. Tala has taken over Alara's spot. Alara can't leave her planet. I don't think she would come back permanently, but that would be a great addition to the crew, or at least the cast as a recurring member. Don't know if she'll join Union Point and become a real actual character, but it would be cool to have her as a civilian observation, learning the ropes, trying to become up to date with everything that's happened in the Union to possibly become somebody important in the future, or maybe she'll end up halfway through season 4 deciding, you know what, I've learned so much now, I'm going to take all this back home and make my planet strong, and maybe things go wrong, maybe things go right. Just wildly speculating right here, but I think that could be a cool plot line to go forward. We get to see everyone here, and the very last time we see Yaphet, he appears to be happy. I say the last time we see him, it's it remains to be seen if they recast him or what they do going forward. But if this is truly the last time we see Yaphet, it's great to see that he appears to be happy. And that's going to be a very, very missed character. So hats off to you. Hats off to you, Yaphet and Norm MacDonald. You've been great on the Orville. You've been great just in general life, Norm. So now my hair looks like terrible crap. And we have this parting scene of Gordon playing a beautiful song. Every guest is enjoying themselves. I think even the Kalon are having a good time. And then they fly off into future unknown. Whether or not we get a season 4 renewal here shortly, I think they might announce it possibly at D23. Although I was saying not long ago I thought they were going to announce it at SDCC. Maybe they'll just announce it on their own. There needs to be an announcement of some kind. They can't just not say, yes, it's coming back. No, it's not. So fingers crossed, hashtag renew the Orville. Send in those pickle banana covered egg salad sandwiches to the Orville offices. And hopefully we'll be back in the 25th century ASAP. Because this was a banger of a season. Banger is not a word I've ever used before in that way. I hate it, but I'm not going to cut it out. This was a fantastic season. Downside would be there wasn't much serialization, and it seems like a lot of storylines were rushed, and that's most likely because they had no idea if they were coming back to resolve these things in another season. For instance, the Kalon threat, well, wrapped up well, in my opinion, was rushed. The Clyden Bordis storyline, as far as Topa, the Mocklins leaving the Union, all of that seemed a bit rushed and then wrapped up a bit too soon. It didn't have that time to breathe, and I think that's because of the 10-episode season, as well as the unknowingness of whether or not it was coming back for a 4th season or a movie. So I think they wanted to wrap up as much as they could in this 10-episode season, and in order to do that, they didn't really have the ability to give a 5-10 episode break to let things breathe and let things fester before the emotional punch would really set in. And I think that's a bit of a criticism, but it's not so much a criticism to take away from the emotional impact those things had. You know, had Clyden been gone until season 4 and then come back and had that whole Mocklin series wrapped up, I think that would have had more weight behind it than kind of only lasting 2 episodes. Just my opinion, and I think it does have a lot to do with the issues behind the scenes, but it doesn't in any way mean the rectification of those situations was poor. It was done well, it had emotional weight, and I enjoyed it. I would say my least favorite episode of this season is probably Shadow Realms. I don't think it was a poor episode. I liked it. It was fun. It was great introducing this new possible threat to the Union. But since it never came back into play, like those spider people never showed up to impact the Kalon War, it was probably the most throwaway and the most distinct episode in the entire season. A lot of people were having trouble with rectifying the fact that it wasn't like a 10-episode movie. I personally wish there was a bit more serialization, but I also like the fact that there wasn't. So I like that middle ground of self-contained stories, but an underlying threat or an underlying thread going through them. And no, I don't want that underlying threat to be a galaxy-sized black hole that's going to blow up if we don't, talk somebody down from being sad. That's not good either. So overall, great emotional way to end the season. This was more of a, I believe, love letter to the fans, the cast and crew themselves, as the last episode, which was the big punchy end of the season. This was more of a, you've come to love these characters, so let's spend some time with them. Let's give those payoffs for things like Claire and Isaac, for things like Clyden and Bordis and even Topa. Let's bring back Alara, a fan favorite character we haven't seen in a while. Let's bring in some of those humorous jokes that now that things are more settled, we're not at war, feel a bit more appropriate. We can relax. We can let our hair down. Things aren't as dire. Nobody's being tortured. Nobody's being turned into a spider. So I think now that things have settled down, the humor feels a bit more appropriate, and we can let our characters breathe a bit more in their relaxed environment. So that was fun to see. And the season as a whole blew past. I mean, we waited so long for it that it's kind of sad now that it's over, and we have no sort of inkling on when or if the Orville is coming back. I mean, I know it's coming back in comics in some form, and we've got, some online fan-made things that are coming back, but as an official show and or movie, we still don't know. And just going to have to wait and see, but I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for some of the little seeds they planted for a possible season 4. I would be excited for Lysella to be a main or recurring character because I think that opens up a world of possibilities that we really haven't explored. So rest in peace, Norm. Great season to all the cast and crew who worked on this. I'm sure all of them are watching, especially this far into my video. The Orville New Horizons definitely set new heights for this series, and I just hope and pray and wish that we get more and we get that news soon. So until next time, if there is a next time, when there is a next time, keep enjoying the Orville, keep watching it on Hulu, keep watching it on Disney Plus, and enjoy it all you can, because even if this is all we get, it's been a hell of a ride.